Alison Arngrim is best known to viewers worldwide for her portrayal of the incredible, nasty Nellie Oleson on the much-loved, long-running hit television series Little House on the Prairie. Alison Arngrim is a comedian. She's headlined at nightclubs such as Laugh Factory, the Comedy Store, and the Improv in Los Angeles, and is also a crusader fighting AIDS and child abuse, having a personal interest in both. She currently lives in the wilds of Tujunga, California, with her husband of 14 years and their 2 cats. She takes pride in the fact that so many people enjoyed hating her as a girl and is more than happy to give them the opportunity to do so in the future. There's a big Little House on the Prairie cast reunion coming up in September in Keystone, South Dakota. But joining me on the phone line right now is Alison Arngrim. Alison, welcome to the program.
Hi. I guess more than happy to give you the opportunity to do so in the future.
I'm sure, because I have met you, and that's not the case, because you've been to Edmonton, and I'll have to say this has got to be over 20 years ago at our stage.
A long time ago.
Yes,
the dinner theater there.
The dinner theater, Stage West, and my wife and I both met you at that time.
And I had such a good time. I was doing a play called In One Bed and Out the Other.
Whoops. Well,
it was great because it was the winter season, so people wanted to come see people in their underwear when it was like 40 below outside.
Well,
so
there you go.
Successful.
Well, can you imagine? Like, how old were you when you started on Little House on the Prairie?
I was 11 when I got the part. Yeah, about 12 when we started filming.
Okay, tell us about getting the part. What did it take to convince the people that you were the right person to play this mean old Nellie Oleson?
Well, that's what's so funny is I went in and, first of all, the books had been so hugely popular when they announced they were making a show with the books. Everyone, the search for Laura Ingalls was like the search for Scarlett O'Hara, the children's version. Everyone wanted to be Laura Ingalls. So people were being seen for it, and I actually went to several interviews, and I actually came in. I read for the part of Laura, I read for the part of Mary, and I was really relieved I wasn't getting either of those. And I kept going to these meetings at this place and thinking, how many people are in this show? And then I came back, and I thought, well, I can't believe I'm going back to that show again. And I get these pages of the script, and I turned to my father. I said, this is not normal. Wait, you got to see this. Well, I read it for my dad in the lobby, and he said, don't change a thing, just read it like that. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't believe all this horrible stuff this girl was saying and doing. And I went in, and Michael was there, and Kent McRae, and the other producers, and they laughed and laughed till they were hysterical and said, could you read it again, please? And I said, well, what do you want me to change? They said, nothing, just read that part again. And I was hired on the spot.
Just like that.
I was hired on the spot, so apparently I had a natural knack for it.
I guess so. We won't need to go into that, but let's just... First of all, you've been asked this 1,000 times. The curly hair. Was it your hair or was it a wig?
It was my hair for a few months, and then they had to get a wig. They tried curling my hair. I had to sleep in curlers. They had to do stuff to me with a curling iron. It was just awful, and it took forever. My hair wouldn't stay curled, and so they had a wig made, and it was custom made and handmade, and it was just fantastic. But that way, it really stayed on during all those fight scenes and going down hills in wheelchairs and whatnot. But it must have been 50 bobby pins plus the big comb in front. Very uncomfortable on a hot day, but it did stay put much better than my regular hair.
Some of those scenes, those fight scenes, and like you said, going down the hill in the wheelchair. Did you have a stunt double?
I had a stunt double for the very, very dangerous stuff. For instance, I go downhill in the wheelchair. I do go down part of the hill in the chair. That last part where the stunt double is the one who flips out of the chair and does that nice backflip and lands in the water. I don't do backflips.
Okay.
I draw the line there.
Okay, good.
But the stunt doubles, but Melissa and I did a lot of our own stunts. We actually got honorary Stuntmen's Association patches because we kept doing so many dangerous things on our own.
Oh, man. Well, tell us about, obviously the character was the nemesis of Laura Ingalls, and what was it like for you just as a person walking down a street? Did you actually get people coming up to you thinking you were Nellie Oleson and scolding you for being so mean to Laura Ingalls?
Melissa Gilbert and I were in a supermarket together, and people came up to her, recognized her, to warn her that I was in the other part of the store so she could get away.
Okay.
It was that bad. We've had people, even today, I was at a party at Melissa's, and this woman actually asked, she said, when did you two start to like each other? And we said, excuse me? And we're saying, well, the first day. And she said, no, didn't you two not used to get along? And finally Melissa said, oh my God, I think she means the show.
Yeah.
And we realized that this grown woman who was in the industry, was involved in production, and her husband was producer, actually believed we'd been enemies on the show, was astounded that I was at Melissa's house.
Well, I've heard
the number of times I've gone to her house and the other party guests ask what I'm doing there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it doesn't amaze me because I've talked to and I've heard this from soap opera stars or soap opera villains, and they say they can't walk down the street without armed guards because people, get so involved in the storyline of soap operas as they get involved in the storyline of shows like Little House on the Prairie, and start to believe it, that these people are actually these people.
I did get whacked with a soda once in a parade. I was in the Christmas parade in Hollywood, and someone threw a cup of McDonald's orange soda right at my head. Got me right in the side of the head. Luckily, it was in a plastic cup. I kept thinking, I was really glad it wasn't a beer bottle or in a can or anything. But they did. They were so mad when they saw me in the parade, they threw a soda at me.
Wow. Well, you played the part very well for all those years, and interesting how your character developed. You eventually got married. On TV. Yeah, and so what was that like, being the mean old, girl at 11 or whatever, and then growing up and getting married? Did you kind of mellowed out a little bit when you got married?
Yeah, it was kind of a taming of the shrew thing, where I was completely impossible, and then finally they bring this guy who's the only guy who'll stand up to me, or Mrs. Olsen. And it was wonderful guy. Steve Tracy played Percival, and he was just so funny. And that's very strange when you get married on TV. I mean, talk about an arranged marriage. You don't get any say in who the actor is. You don't get to pick, and you have no idea who it is till they show up. It's like, surprise, here's your husband. Oh, I hope you like him. And luckily, Steve Tracy's a really great guy, and we're very good friends. And
speaking of Steve, I believe he passed away, right?
He did. He died of AIDS.
Yeah,
back in 1986. They had nothing. They had none of the drugs they have now. I mean, they barely knew what they were doing. He was even taking the experimental treatments, trying to help other people. But yeah, he died back in 86.
So you two were very close, and did that get you started on this crusade for AIDS research?
Yeah, I did. I started volunteering at our AIDS project down here, AIDS Project Los Angeles, and I found out, Steve was very lucky. He had a family who stood by him and a lot of friends, but a lot of people were sick and alone. It was just terrible. So I did what I could to try to help other people, get information out there, and I've done fundraisers all over the country for different AIDS organizations now. So I've, done what I can.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk more about what you're doing these days. You're also involved in being a spokesperson for child abuse, and you were on Larry King, I believe, back in 2004, talking about your own personal experience with child abuse. Can you share a bit of that and what you're doing right now in that area?
Marvelous group called the National Association to Protect Children, or protect.org, and we have members all over the U.S. and even some in Canada, so hello, you know who you are, who went to our website and joined up anyway. What we've been doing is changing laws in different states in the U.S. and federally to better protect children. And yeah, I was abused as a child by a babysitter, and I wasn't going to go public with it, but we were in the middle of fighting to change the laws in California that was allowing, someone could have molested a child for years at a time, molested several children, and they were eligible for no jail time served, free probation, as long as they were related to the victim. It was absolutely the craziest thing. In fact, I believe in Canada you have something called a breach of trust law, where it's actually a more severe penalty if you molest a relative.
Yes.
But we had a deal in California where it was really a get-out-of-jail-free card, and it was really being used by the defendants and their lawyers to just allow these people to walk the streets. And so we were able to change that law for equal treatment for the victims. And during that, it was necessary for me to go on and talk about it. When I went on Larry King, they said, well, we understand this happened to you. And I said, yeah. And they said, well, if you'll talk about your experience, we can really get the word out. And I said, right. So I did. I said, well, that's the thing. I know from personal experience how severe the damage is and how horrible a situation this is to be in. And so to tell a kid who's already gone to the trouble of telling someone and they've gone to court, okay, we believe you, and yes, they're convicted, but we're not going to do anything to them because it was their relatives, so they get to go free. This was insanely unfair and needed to be made illegal.
So, Allison, how difficult was it for you to come forward and talk about your experience, especially on a show like Larry King?
Well, I was relieved it was Larry King. That at least made it, it was reasonably dignified. It was a news program, so it wasn't made, a sensational, awful thing. Larry King, we were able to get a lot of attention to the law and what people were doing in Sacramento, and we've since changed some of the laws in New York and other states. I would say in the end it came out had a very positive effect.
Right.
It was difficult. As I said, I avoided it. I'm not one of these celebrities who goes on television to talk about horrible things in their life. It's just not something I really do. But in this case, I think the information needed to be out there to help other people.
Well, whether you're a celebrity or not, I mean, there's people probably listening to this program right now, and we all know the stats of those who have gone through what you went through who are not talking about it because of fear or a number of different reasons why they're not talking about it.
I've never told anyone, and to live with that, it's a terrible burden to carry as a secret. I mean, I was very lucky. I had told some people. I mean, my husband knew. I had a therapist, so I wasn't keeping it by myself. I had close friends I had talked to. I just had never gone public on television, which was a very weird experience. But for people who are keeping the burden, no, you need to tell someone. Not everyone needs to go on television and have it flung out in the public. I can't recommend that to everyone. It's very difficult. But I would say that if you're carrying this burden by yourself, to please talk to a friend or a loved one or go to a therapist. You don't want to carry this by yourself. All
right, Allison, what else are you doing? I mean, you're doing this crusader work and all this. Are you doing some acting still? Where can people see you?
I did a movie called Make the Yuletide Gay. Very funny. It's going to be coming out on DVD November 10th and be in theaters. It's a Christmas comedy. And I'm sort of the Mrs. Olsen in it. I'm the very annoying next-door neighbor.
Okay.
So I've sort of, everyone becomes their mother, and I've grown into the Mrs. Olsen part.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I'm bad yet again.
Okay. So you're still active?
I'm still active. I'm doing my one-woman show. I don't know if I can say the title on your program.
So you're in other words, you're sticking with what you started with your Nellie Olson character. You're just sort of continuing it on now.
People really love it. I am so amazed. The popularity of the show after all these years is astounding. 140 countries, people all over the world, from Canada to France to America to Iraq, Iran, Israel, Argentina, fan mail from all over the world. People are mad for Little House on the Prairie, and they love Nellie Olson, and so I'm more than happy to go with the flow. And, well, I'm doing this thing in South Dakota. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, the Little House on the Prairie cast reunion coming up September 4th to 6th in Keystone, South Dakota.
We still speak to each other. Very few casts from TV shows are as friendly as we are.
Well, you were saying how Melissa Gilbert, you're friends with her.
Absolutely. She's like my sister, and we're still friends, and we have these reunions. We try to do at least one a year.
Yeah.
And in September, we're all going to Keystone, South Dakota, the Holy Terror Days, which I think is dreadfully funny. It's named, I think, for the Holy Terror mine. But I thought, it's called Holy Terror Days.
You'll fit right in there.
I'll fit right in.
So have you read Melissa Gilbert's book?
Yes, I have. I'm in it,
Okay, I haven't
all over it.
Okay, I haven't read the book, but your thoughts
is very good.
Yeah, because she's very revealing in that book about her own personal struggles as well.
Yeah, she does. Well, she talks about how difficult it was, this image of perfection. And yes, it's wonderful to play Laura Ingalls, but can you imagine having people expect you to be Laura Ingalls all the time?
Yep.
I mean, I think bad enough. I have a terrible advantage. I may have been terrible Nellie Olson, but at least everyone thinks I'm really nice when they meet me, because by comparison, how could I not be? Whereas she had this really unrealistic ideal, and a lot of, child actors, it's difficult. Her mother and a lot of people who were around her as a child really wanted her to be this little Miss Perfect child star 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it was very difficult for her. And I think this book is kind of her saying, I'm really just a regular wife and mother and have my own life and problems like everyone else.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. It's a very funny book, too. She tells very good stories.
Okay, and
my book comes out next year. Ha ha.
You got a book coming out next year?
You betcha. I'm writing my book right now, and mine will be released next year. It looks like spring, summer.
Oh, okay. Well, we can look forward to that. So tell us about your thoughts and memories of Michael Landon.
Oh, yes. I would have to say it's amazing. He was one of the funniest people I ever met or worked with. The man was a riot.
This is what I hear. He used to crack the whole cast up on the set, putting peas in his nose and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, he would take live frogs and put them in his mouth and let them jump. Absolutely. I don't know how he didn't get warts on his tongue. Well, I mean, all you have to think about is the fact that all of the episodes where Nellie was doing the craziest and worst stuff, these were usually the episodes that Michael wrote or directed or both.
Okay.
I think he was living vicariously through Nellie Olson.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, everyone says that it was just a joy to work with him because he kept it light on the set.
Which was good because, it was hard work. We did a whole hour episode in 5 to 7 days, and we always got in ahead of schedule, and we worked and worked, and we'd have to get up so early. We'd have to be at work 4 or 5 in the morning out on location.
Wow.
And it's very hard work, and we'd have to be in those petticoats and those dresses in 110-degree heat in the summer. And so it's not easy, and a huge cast and crew.
Yeah.
And so he worked us very hard, but he managed to keep us laughing, and we all had a good time doing it. It was really astounding.
And did you or any of the cast know at that time that this show would be so hugely popular, not only in its regular run, but years and years later, people still buying DVDs and watching it on TV and reruns? Did you have any idea back then that it would be so hugely popular?
Honestly, that's the amazing thing. Not a clue. The first day we stood there in Simi Valley, my father came to the set, and he said, I don't know why they're spending so much money on this thing. No one will watch this. It'll be over in 6 months. Nobody believes that show would be a hit. Well, even the network didn't. They couldn't believe it. They had wanted Michael to do some other show, maybe play a cop or a detective, something cool, right. And they were stunned that he was his idea. He insisted he wanted to do Little House on the Prairie.
Sure, because he came right from Bonanza.
That's right. And he could have had anything he wanted. He was the one who put his foot down and said, no, I want to make Little House on the Prairie. And everyone said he was crazy. Well, yeah. Crazy like a fox.
Yeah.
And the thing became a hit, and we could not believe it. By the third or fourth year, I think it started to sink in, and we were just floored that this thing had taken off. And I don't think it really sunk in for most of the cast how popular it was until really about in the last 10 years that it's still going on as we started to get fan mail from all these other countries. As we started to hear from people saying, no, I grew up with this show. You have no idea the influence it's had on me. And we realized that it was more than a TV show. It's really part of American culture.
Sure.
And as I've discovered, it's a part of French culture as well.
Sure. Well, TV shows today, I mean, we don't have shows today other than reruns of Little House on the Prairie. There are no shows in production today like that. Do you have any reason why we can't produce a show today like Little House on the Prairie that would be as popular?
A lot of TV executives don't have any sense. I mean, one of the things is whatever sells will eventually get copied. I mean, you notice right now, like with the teen vampire thing, because there's like Twilight, the movies, and now there's True Blood, and now everyone's like, quick, put a vampire in the story. So they'll copy things that are hit, and there are things, I mean, they have done things like Touched by an Angel, Seventh Heaven. People have realized that these kind of family stories, that people do want this. But the incredible kind of drama we did on Little House, where you had a movie really every week, these really intense stories, as well as these wonderful family values.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything like that. And they're missing a bet. The problem is they have these meetings and these sort of focus groups, and they all talk among themselves, and they're very narrow-minded, and they say, well, this is what people want. But the reality is they spend a fortune on some of these TV shows and films, and they're not hits.
Yep.
And some of the things they think aren't going to be hits, well, they are. And it drove them crazy that Little House was that popular. They didn't expect that to be a hit. So I think that a lot of people making film and TV are not in touch with what people really want.
Yeah.
They're missing the boat.
Absolutely. Well said. We had the Waltons back then. We had Little House on the Prairie. Did you guys have like competition between the Waltons cast and the Little House on the Prairie cast? Because you kind of were that same wholesome type TV.
And it's funny how many of us know each other and hang out together. And sometimes Mary McDonough was on the Waltons will have parties, and there'll be people from Little House and people from the Waltons, and someone from the Brady Bunch will show up. And a lot of us Waltons and Prairie people, as we call it, we sort of have crossover. We all know each other.
Yeah.
And it's very strange. It was sort of a friendly competition. And we joke about it. Someone will say, now the show you were on, is that the Good Night John Boy thing? They go, no, that's the other people, the Waltons. Where they're sort of like the neighbors down the street.
Yeah. Well, Allison, it's a pleasure speaking with you. Enjoy your reunion. Do you like the reunions, and what kind of response do you get at these reunions?
Well, it's packed. I mean, we were in Nebraska one time, and you would have thought it was Woodstock. I mean, people come from all over. I know people who are flying in from Montreal, and from people flying from France and from England to these reunions. They come from all over the world. And it's just absolutely packed. And at this thing, there's going to be a parade, and there'll be autograph sessions, and they always have a cast Q&A. And the place is just packed because people get to actually see us together live in person and ask us questions.
What kind of questions are people asking you?
Well, it is a lot of the same things. How did you stand being that mean?
Yeah.
They all want to know about Michael, of course. They're fascinated that we're still friends after all these years, which is so unusual. Mm-hmm. They want to know, how did it affect our lives, and what are we doing now? And it did change all of our lives.
Sure.
Because Little House it's such a phenomenon. I mean,
to
meet people literally from Borneo and Bangladesh who tell me they grew up watching the show.
Wow. And
unbelievable.
And what's believable too is that there's a lot of child stars who aren't alive today. What was the key for you and a lot of the staff?
we had a more stable environment. I mean, I joke about, the fact Little House, no arrests, no convictions, we're very proud. But that's a reality that a lot of child stars, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on child stars. You're earning a living. You're really in a grown-up adult job. It's difficult. And a lot of child stars do not have the support network that we did. And it doesn't work out, and they wind up on drugs. They wind up having nervous breakdowns. They don't know what to do with their lives. And you see all this terrible stuff going on. And the cast of Little House, that just hasn't really taken place. You're not seeing those kind of stories because we do sort of stick together, and we do watch out for each other. And then I also think that, as I said, Michael really made us work hard. I mean, oh, yeah, he was fun, but there's no fooling around. You got your work done. And I think that's part of why we're in such good shape, comparatively.
Sure.
I think we have very high self-esteem, the people from Little House, because we had to work hard and we really had a goal and objective and we had to do it. We weren't just patted on the head and told, well, that's okay, you're a dumb kid, that's good enough. No, we were expected to deliver. And I think that's important. I think some child stars, when they were very young, they're sometimes treated like trained dogs. And I don't think that's really good for a kid or for anybody.
Absolutely.
To be just sort of patted on the head and say, well, that's good enough. It's okay. It's just a stupid show.
Yeah.
We had to do quality work, and I think that shows now that we're adults and how we conduct ourselves.
It is quality work, definitely. After all these years, people are still, there's new generations of fans, and the old generation is still watching it. It's Little House on the Prairie. They're having a cast reunion September 4th to 6th in Keystone, South Dakota. Alison Arngrim, thank you for being on the program today and telling us all your memories of being actually on the program.
You betcha.
All right. There's Alison Arngrim, who played Nellie Olson on Little House on the Prairie.